Cheers.
Cheers, buddy. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
You have the good crystal. I like it. Thank you. I can tell. You learned from. This is every. This pattern is this Waterford? Is that what this is?
Might be. I don't.
Waterford crystal.
Probably.
Yeah, I guarantee it.
I usually take labels and stuff off, but I don't know.
This is my mom had these. My mom had that's when you knew somebody important. Like otherwise, it was just the glasses and shit that were in the cap.
Oh yeah.
But when people that she was like, these people we need to impress.
So in our household, there was exactly what you were talking about, the Waterford glasses, and it was the short ones, the long ones, and they were always kept in their box at the very top cabinet.
Yes.
And then if it was just like regular hangout stuff happening, it was like, remember when like Jack Daniels or these other companies would give you free glasses? When you would, buy a gift set.
It was a Christmas gift set.
Yeah. Like Costco would have them and other places. So our house and pretty much everybody else's house was full of these glasses all the time.
Yeah.
They were halfway decent.
Yeah, they weren't bad. They had like whatever you were serving. Like if we had Johnny Walker Black, the glasses would have the guy, the Walker.
Yeah.
Right. The guy it'll have it on the. So that was kind of fancy too. Like we're serving it in the same glass, and then like I could tell like when it was just like regular people coming, like just regular friends.
Yeah.
Like it would be that gas station like Dallas Cowboys that you got you got a set of 4 glasses if you put 10 gallons of gas in your car. Like they have this thing. I don't know about LA, but here.
I don't know. I don't remember it ever being an LA thing, but they did other things like that in LA.
Yeah, here it's like Exxon. If you had like if you got 8 gallons of gas, you had a 4 set of like Dallas Cowboys commemorative glasses, and like people come over like put the beer in the Dallas Cowboy glass. I'm like, oh, these are regular folk.
Yeah.
These people are not
fancy people.
These people are not special at all. And then like when my mom would like be wiping out the inside because it's been in the box, wiping these Waterford crystal glasses out. I was like, oh, I wonder who's coming over.
Yeah.
Like these they're from India. They're new. I'm like, all right, trying to impress them. I got you. I like your style.
There was always like that.
Yeah.
And you'd have to wear certain clothes when those people came.
Oh yeah. We had. My mom would say, I know you got the same thing. My mom would we'd go shopping for like school clothes or whatever, and she'd buy a pair of shoes. Like, you don't wear these everywhere.
Yeah. These are your nice shoes.
These are your nice shoes, and this is your nice shirt. This is your nice pants. Like, why did you wear these to school today? Who was there? Who, the Pope came to see you? Is that why? I'm like, what? Why the Pope? My mom would just go like obscure like celebrities.
Not the same sense of humor. Your mom had a hell of a sense of humor.
The dirtier the better.
That's just hilarious.
Which is really, really interesting because in Punjabi culture, it's usually the men that are off in the corner. I know how it is with Armenians. Like the men are over there like doing the dirty jokes and the limericks and all that stuff.
Usually, yeah, it's the guys.
And then the women are over there just doing the regular gossip of over this girl and that lady and this whatever. My mom was like, there was a doctor, Dr. Chandra. He was a doctor here in Medical City in Dallas, and he had a wicked sense of humor, man. He was innuendo for days, and it was so good, and I caught it every time. And my mother thought he was the funniest human being. And then like she would on Mother's Day, I went up to Dallas Comedy Club just so I could do my mom's 2 favorite jokes.
Shout out to DCC.
Yeah, they're the best. But I went up and did. I was like, can I just get 7 minutes, 8 minutes? I think my whole set was 7 minutes and 50 seconds or whatever. And I recorded it because I just wanted to do her 2 favorite jokes. Okay. Because I go, you're not going to believe me when I do them. And I do, and they're just so dirty. Yeah, my mom would do that. My mom did that thing where she would laugh so hard because she knew the punchline was coming.
Right.
That she almost couldn't get to the. So I think I heard that joke 15 times before I ever heard the punchline. Because I just get so frustrated. She'd be laughing so hard, like tears coming out. I'm like, I don't want to hear this anymore.
Dude, I have a buddy like that. Whenever he's telling a funny story that he
knows
mentally remembering that he knows it, like right when it's at the cusp of where it's supposed to be hilarious, he'll lose it.
He loses his mind.
He'll just like turn tomato red, laughing as hard as he can, and then he'll have to literally just like calm himself down.
That's it. That was my mom. So my mom did that thing where she silent laughed.
Oh yeah.
Right, where she's like she's laughing but there's no sound coming out, and I'd just be sitting there like, get to the punchline.
But it's so funny when my buddy does it because it kind of ramps everybody up because you start giggling with him.
Yeah.
And then when he takes that breath, you just laugh even harder.
Yeah. That's the thing. So so when I finally heard the punchline of the joke, I was like, all right. The lead up was so much better.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes the way someone is
and I always do the joke.
Story is just
I always
funny.
do the joke was going to be really good is if like she's like, okay, so let me tell you about, and then right there I'm like, okay, we're not going to get anywhere near the end of this joke. And I would just tell her, I'm like, you can, and she couldn't stop laughing. And I just go, okay, you can be done. My dad would always go, you're a very good comedian, but you use bad language. I'm like, yeah, but it's for emphasis. I know, but still, you don't have to say F word all the time. And I'm like, why is she doing it? like my mom's like, she says, have you heard? I don't listen to her jokes either. They're so dirty. I'm like, it's so hilarious to me because it was the exact opposite of it. Like all these uncles that would be like, Raj, come here. You're doing stand-up, right? All right. So there's these 3 hookers in Quebec. And you're like, all right, I don't know where this is coming. Like, my dad's like, I'll go get us some beers. And he would leave. So he didn't have to hear the 3 hookers from Quebec joke. And I'm like,
oh my God, your dad was like.
I was like, no, I'm going to go over there for the, like, did not like it at all.
That is the funniest thing in the world.
Yeah, I got to, luckily, this many years ago, it was with Ahmed from Axis of Evil. We relaunched the tour. And we did the Majestic. It was the next generation of Evil. And Ahmed was the host. And then there was a couple of us like Amir K and Kayvon and myself.
I don't know Kayvon. I know Amir K's name.
Amir K. There's a couple of us that did it. Fahim Anwar.
I know his name.
Yeah, so we were at the Majestic. And so we got to, like, my dad came to that.
Cool.
And so and it was packed. It was really nice. And I saw him the next day. I was like, I'll take you to lunch. I was going back to LA. I was like, let me take you to lunch. I got to fly back to LA tonight and go to lunch. And he's like, the show was very good. I was like, thanks. You enjoyed it? He's like, yeah, everybody did so good job. Do you guys in the back, do you say all those things like that? F word this, F word that? I'm like, that's what you took away from it? We sold out the Majestic. like that, but that you're taking that part away? I don't know if you just talk like that all the time. And then my mom would be like, this bitch, you don't understand. This bitch is crazy. And I'm like, Mom, dad's coming. I'm like, okay, I'll stop using the language.
So you had like polar opposites growing up. 100%. That's so awesome.
And so like I got the very, like, I like to think that my jokes are clever and well put together. I got the analytical side from my dad on sentence structure, basically. And then like the quick-wittedness. My mom was very, very fast, very quick-witted, very... easy with the punchline, and she knew a good joke. Okay. My dad loved old, like the Stooges, like slapstick, like he liked that kind of stuff. Like he liked the misdirection, and my mom was like punchline, and the dirtier the better.
That is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, man.
Especially when it's mom. It's usually dad that's like that.
Oh yeah. So she was like, I have a joke. She's like, she would look around for my dad. She's like, okay, come here. Oh my God. She's like, okay, there's these 3. I'll tell you the joke. Okay. There's 3 nuns. I was like, all right. They're in Vatican City. And I was like, all right, where they should be. All right. So the first nun goes in, and she said, she goes to the Pope. She says, Father, I have a confession. And the Pope says, what? She goes, Father, I've seen a man's penis. He goes, okay, go outside and wash your eyes in holy water. The next nun comes in and says, Father, I've touched a man's penis. So go outside and wash your hands and then she starts laughing, like, here we go. And then the third nun comes in, she whispers in the Pope's ear. And then she walks outside and she looks at the other 2 nuns and says, move over, bitches, I have to gargle. Oh my God. And I remember, like, she would tell it all the time. I distinctly, they were sitting there, they were having tea, and my mom and my dad, and she's like, do you remember the 3 nuns joke? I was like, yeah, you should do it on stage. I was like, how does it go? And my dad's like, I'll be back. I don't want to hear this nonsense.
Have you ever done any of her jokes on stage?
That's the one. I've done that one.
I've
done that one. I've done that one on stage.
Just the way you were telling it, I started cracking up before you gave me the punchline because I imagined your mom telling you and laughing, dying. Yeah. Getting to that point.
Yeah, that was probably the 10th time I heard that joke before I found out what the punchline was. So forever I was trying to figure out what the punchline was in my head. I'm like, what did the third nun say? Because she would get the third nun, and just, that was it. Like your friend, just bright red. Yeah. My mom was real fair skin. So when she laughed, like her cheeks would get like Santa Claus, like the paintings you see of Santa Claus, the drawings you see with like the big rosy cheeks. That was my mom.
Yeah, my buddy has lighter complexion than I do.
Yeah. Everybody thought my mom was white. Okay. And then my dad was Indian. and like she would get so because back then, for them, like the lighter your skin was, because of British rule for 450 years. So even if you listen to our music, they're like, "What's going on there, fair skinned girl?" And I'm like, "Who's this song about?"
Right.
Like, it's like, look at that girl with the blue eyes. I'm like, who? Where is this girl? Like,
who are you singing to?
I can hear all these like Punjabi songs and Hindi songs, like this really light skinned girl with the blue eyes is walking. I'm like, who's?
Is that the majority of your music too?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I feel like the majority of my country's music is about the girl that they love or continue to love.
Yeah. Well, because it's all arranged marriages, and so they like
none
not
of ours
all
are.
Of it. Yeah. Oh, you guys don't do the arranged marriage?
Not at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, there are, typical mom and mom, same neighborhood. Oh my God.
Well, that's an arranged marriage, right?
But there is no arrangement if the two don't like each other at all. Like they'll just be like, "Hey, remember so and so's daughter? She grew up," and you'd be like, "Yeah, but she grew up into something I don't like," and they'd be like, "Okay, cool."
Oh no. So
there's no introduction or showing each. No, it's just like the mom will literally at dinner be like, "Hey, remember so and so's daughter?" And you're like, "Yeah." Well, she's back from Russia, and you're like, "Yeah, I saw her 2 weeks ago. She looks like a gargoyle. Thanks." Like just kind of, but it ends there. You guys, it's more like,
this is
who you will be marrying.
I have a friend of mine and his cousin.
There's a whole Netflix show about this, isn't there?
Yeah. The matchmaker.
Yes, the Indian matchmaker.
Yeah, but that's new. Like back then, there wasn't a choice. Like they're like, we've already talked to their parents. That's who you're marrying.
Yeah, right? So none of that stuff.
Like there's a friend of mine who has a cousin, and who she's married to, she used to have nightmares about being married to.
Oh God!
Like when she was a kid, it's like, oh my God, I had this dream that I was married to so and so,
and then that's who she's married.
Yeah.
Are they happy?
I would. Okay. I don't know them, but
okay.
I'm assuming.
I thought you knew.
No. I just know that I know that story from my friend. That's his cousin. But I mean, when they talk about her, I never hear his name mentioned a lot. Even though they're still together, they have kids. They have a very successful company back in India.
So the divorce rate is low in India.
Well, I mean, it's so cool. And it sounds so bizarre that I'm saying it's so cool. The last show I did in India before COVID, I was in Mumbai, and I was an older couple. So imagine, and this is how my preconceived brain is. I just saw an older man, older woman, kid. So I go, oh, okay, mom, dad, child.
Right.
And I go, so how long you guys been married? And the guy goes, we're not. And I was like, what? I go, who's this? He goes, it's my girlfriend. I go, who's that? He goes, that's her son.
Oh, God. Okay.
And I was like, let's stop the show right now. What is happening? And he's like, I was married, divorced. She was married, divorced. This is her son. We met through a local, it's like a volunteering group. Like they go out and volunteer, like feed the homeless, whatever.
Okay.
They volunteered at the same place.
Okay.
And one guy's like, hey, he's divorced, you're divorced. But Hindu, very typical Hindu family structure, and he's got kids, and they live somewhere else in India, and he still sees them and still takes care of them. They're at that time 15, 16 years old, whatever. And the kid that his girlfriend was 22, and so that's like his buddy, and they go to shows, and this time they brought mom. So that dynamic is there, and it's changing. But yeah, the divorce rate for arranged marriages is low because the stigma behind it is, what would people say that you're divorced? I'm divorced. Right?
Okay.
Like I was married, and I'm divorced. But like when I tell people that that are my age, like Indian people here in town, it's like, so how's your wife? I was like, oh, that's right, man. I'm sorry. And then everybody starts whisper talking, and I'm like, no, we're cool. We talk every day. She's my buddy. She's my best friend. She's my agent. Like, it doesn't get more LA than that. She's legitimately my agent.
Seriously, man?
Yeah, I told you.
How are you living Hollywood in Texas?
Because we lived in, she lives in New York now, but we lived in LA for 11 years.
It's Sherman Oaks.
Yeah, Sherman Oaks. Yeah,
so is she an agent? Is that what her?
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
So, again, welcome not to answer the question, but what brought on the divorce?
She's 9 years younger than me, which is fine. But, she was I'm kind of set in my ways with stand up and being on the road and a road comic, and she kind of like things were growing for her. Like she was like, I want to do Like when we met, we were out, we're very social. We kind of went out all the time she was in PR, so she was doing red carpets and
Right.
we did all of that. She got into management for artists, and it wasn't late nights anymore. So she's like, cool, I'm going to get into meditation and yoga like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going to do that. And and I was like, no, but I don't, that's not something I do. I don't do. And so you do that. And then that turned into a lot of you do that and you do this. And then instead of us doing stuff together, we just kind of were in the same house, but doing things differently. Right.
Because you guys had such varying schedules.
Yeah, I mean, and then I was on the road, and so I'd be gone. I'm in Vegas for a week, and then right after Vegas, I come home for a day to wash clothes, and I'm in Reno, and then I come home for a day and a half, and then I'm in Boston, and so.
And that's what a lot of people don't get. Like traveling comedians can spend, you have 356 days in a year. You can spend up to 300 of it on the road.
Yeah, and some years have 365 days.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
That's gonna make the highlight reel. He just did bad math to an Indian.
Yeah, see, this is why we don't think you guys are funny.
Because of asshole comments like that.
No, but because like the first thing is like you correct the math is the funniest shit in the world to me.
Yeah, no,
that is just funny.
As much as we were together, and as much as we did stuff together, and we did a lot of stuff together, but there was a lot of like, hey, I gotta go do this. Well, I have work at 9 o'clock in the morning, so I can't go do this. And it's like,
so you just kind of grew apart.
Kind of grew apart, but we did our typical stuff. We still went grocery shopping on Saturday, and that was our whole day. And we had our dogs and walked the dogs. But when it was night, then I'm back out in the clubs, and I'm not home till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and she's up at 5. And so, I don't want to wake her up, so let me just chill out on the couch, and I'll just take a nap here, and then we'll go. And then that just turned into I'm going to sleep on the couch, and she sleeps, and so we just realized I just woke up one day, and I was like, we're really, really good friends. But I don't think this is. And I asked very directly. I was like, "Are you happy?" Because I'm not. We can fix it. We can work on it. We can go to counseling. We can do whatever you think we need to do. My stomach's growling, so I'm sorry if you have to edit that out. But we can. But I was like, we can work this out, and we just kind of separated. But here's the funniest part about that. It just gets so much more LA now. We separated, but we lived in the same house for a year and a half. So we still went grocery shopping every Saturday. We walked the dogs every single day.
You were a very woke couple, man.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And we're still I talked to her today, and I was talking to her yesterday. She's Australian, so she's in New York now. It's like the fireworks are gonna be incredible. And but I talk to her all the time. Just catch up. I'm like, how's your dad? How's this? What's going on? She's my agent. She's like, hey, I need you to send in headshots for this. I'm like, cool. What's going on? What's happening? And then when she left one agency to the next, she was like, hey, I already talked to them. You're coming with us unless you want to stay with this one. I'm like, no, wherever you go, I'll go. And so just as a thank you gift, I went and bought. I sent her money to buy lunch for her and her assistant. I was like, just get lunch. That's on me as an intro to the new agency. But yeah, books my work, and there was we didn't have some really horrible divorce, and there was no splitting of assets. Like what you have is what you have, what I have is what I have, and that was it. Like when we separated and she moved into her own place, I moved her in. I was literally carrying boxes into her new place, and people were like, so you guys just were talking to neighbors in the hallway. And they're like, so what are you? I was like, no, she's moving in. It's like, oh, okay. And you are? I was like, ex-husband. How are you? Nice. And just the looks on people's faces like, is that, are they kidding? I'm like, no, that's my ex-wife. But you're moving her in. Yeah, I just want to make sure she's okay. I bought her a stun gun and pepper spray because she was going to be living by herself. I was like, you need to have these things. And
yeah.
Wonderful human being. I just didn't want to have that. It seemed like a very, we get along, but then we were focusing more on, hey, we need to do this for the career. We need to do this for this. We need, need more of a social media presence. So it started turning into more of a business thing. So I'm like, let's not do this thing. We didn't have any kids. And so that made it a lot easier. And so, yeah, but
I think that's kind of a rarity in divorces. This is why probably the neighbors were freaked out, going like, what?
Oh, I have friends that are like, hey man, is it okay if I'm like, we can talk about my ex-wife? Yeah. And I'll show them a message. I was just talking to her today. And so I think the majority of people don't like their exes, but Yeah. So, but I mean, I got into that when people like, especially Indian people now, when they hear about me being divorced, like they whisper talk. How are things? And I'm like, why are we whispering?
So weird, right? Like, it happens
Yeah,
all
yeah.
the time with it.
Yeah,
I think, like,
but here's the thing. Like, I remember, I know where it comes from because I remember there was my friend growing up. Like, I haven't seen her in probably 30 years, but my friend growing up, like her mom and dad split up, and it was just a scandal. And the fact that she showed her faces, like the mom would like, who's now recently divorced, would like be at dinner parties was just a scandal. Like, oh my God, did you see she was here? I'm like, so she has to stop living? Like, I don't understand what do you guys think happens? The guy wasn't good. They had 2 kids. It didn't work. They recognized it as adults. He went off somewhere else. I think he went to like Chicago or Boston or something like that. She stayed here, and this is where all her friends are. But she would show up to like dinner parties, and people you'd see like the women like nudge, like, look, and you see she's here. I'm like, what do you want her to do? Like, I never understood that side of things. Like, I never understood that. Yeah, okay, it didn't work. Well, but it's for life. Who said that? Like, look, I don't.
no, that's the thing. That's the stigmatization. I think more of it is like so much of it gets passed down.
Yeah.
Of like, you will get married one day, you'll start your own family, like get old, and like there's this mental projection that is fed to most people from a very young age of the ideal.
Yeah, I mean, I like kids, and kids love me. Like, since I was a kid, like, I've had 1,000 times where babies will just walk up and be like, "Pick me up." I don't know you, dude, and I'm just that guy. I just don't know if I wanted my own. Like, and I know we did, like, my ex-wife and I didn't not try. Like, but it never happened, and I'm like, all right, that's the universe. Like,
Call it God, call it the universe.
call it whatever you want to. Like,
Yeah.
it just never happened. And we were together from 15. We met in 15, got married in 17, separated in 19. So, and it never, in those years, nothing, there was no scare, there was none of this, there was none of that. There was just, it never happened. And so I'm like, okay, cool. That's the universe going, you guys are not going to be able to give whatever you need, the attention or the time or whatever it is. And it's probably not going to work out. Like, we can already see it's not going to work out. So then you're going to have...
It was a gift from the universe.
100%. And so...
Because it allows you to have this relationship together now. Because...
Yeah.
like, people that don't understand the inherent complexity of a child.
Yeah.
And especially, like...
And do you have kids?
I have 3.
You have 3 kids?
I have 3 boys.
Wow, 3 boys.
Yes, sir.
Wow, you have to feed 3 people.
4.
4. Yeah, that's right. You have to feed 5 people total.
Which I'm happy to do.
I know. I can see you have a beautiful house. You're doing it all right. I'm like, I don't know if I like I don't know, like, what are you bringing? This is I talk about it on stage. I'm like, what are you bringing to the table that I have to feed you? Like, what are you doing? Like what are you bringing to the table? Like,
oh, I can tell you.
Okay.
Amounts of joy that there is no other way to feel.
My brother has 3, 2 boys and a girl, and he's not my biological brother. My biological brother and I don't speak, but the guy who my mother called him her son, but he's my best friend. He's got 3, and like one of them, I'm like, you're a champ. Like, I would feed you. Like, you would definitely get food. Like, you'd get all of it. She's incredible. The other 2, I'm like, you guys might want to learn how to hunt. Like, I'm like, I don't know if I could.
I don't know, man. All 3 of them are incredible in their own ways. Like, my middle one is so similar to you.
Oh, is it really?
He started reading at 1, taught himself how to read.
Yeah. I did same thing.
By like age 3 or 4, he had already memorized the periodic table of elements.
Oh yeah, this kid's you just know he's going to be a comic.
And he's always been a very unique, eccentric kid.
Yeah, he's going to be a comic for sure. You're fucked in that sense.
And he takes after her. He takes after his mom more than he takes after me, thankfully, because I'm not exactly Mr. Jolly.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm very much so just like a closed-off human being.
Is that cultural, or is that just how you are, personality?
Just how I am. I figured out what the reasoning for it is.
Okay.
Kind of like from youth and growing up, and there's a lot of shit attached to it.
Okay.
But my wife, on the flip side, is like, she's the person when she walks into a room, it's like a ray of sunshine comes in.
Yeah. If this wasn't a podcast and I didn't feel like, we'd be the same. We'd be you and I'd be like, yo, what's up? What's good? Like, there wouldn't be any of this Like, this is for your audience because we're, in essence, still doing a TV show. But there's a lot of shit, again, that comes up with growing up in ethnic households that people don't talk about.
Yeah.
And so I'm that kid, too. I'm, like, super quiet. I don't say a lot. Like, at home, like, every girl I've ever dated is like, they do this. Is everything okay? Yeah, why? No, you're just so quiet. I don't have shit to say. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what else you like. In my house, my mom used to say kids are better seen than heard. So, like, you can be around, just don't talk. My mom, this is the ongoing joke. My mom was like, in Hindi, she'd go, "Tu bolta bahut hai," which means you talk too much.
Uh-huh.
You talk too much. You talk. And when I was a kid, from when I was on everybody's level. Like, again, reading and writing. And like, at 18 months old, I remember I walked across a 4-lane highway to get cookies at Safeway. And then this lady found me. This is in Bedford, Texas. This lady found me sitting outside of a Safeway at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my God.
With my shoes in my
You
hand.
left the house.
Yeah, well, I left the house, got dressed, left the house, and then was sitting. And this lady came up, was like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "I'm here for cookies." And this is back when there was no 24-hour grocery store. So they're like, "Well, this place doesn't open till 8 a.m." I was like, "Well, I'll just stay here. This is where my mom gets cookies." And I gave her directions to my
Your
house.
house.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she knew you were fine.
Yeah, she was. My mom opened the door, and there's this lady standing there with me. And she's like, "Yeah, I found him at the Safeway," and I just handed my shoes. But there is, but again, super quiet and super, yeah. But my mom said you talk too much. And one day, when she was in the hospital she had cancer, she had leukemia. She was in the hospital, and it was one of the funniest moments because I just kind of looked at her, and she's like, "What's up?" And I was like, "Do you remember when you said I talk too much?" And she's like, "Yeah, that's your problem now. Still to this day, you talk too much." I go, "Do you remember what you would say at the end?" "No, what did I say?" I was like, "Tell me, you talk too much, you talk too much. What did you used to say?" She goes, "Oh, yeah, I told you that one day I hope they give you a job where they pay you to talk." And in the room, I just go,
I did it.
I did it. And she starts laughing that laugh. And she goes, "Only you would have figured out how to do that. Only you would have heard me say that and then got a job where they pay you to talk."
Maybe almost like subliminally, your mom wanted to somehow vicariously live.
My
that
dad wanted
life
to be an
through
actor.
you.
My dad wanted to be an actor. I know that. My
Did
dad
he?
wanted,
Okay.
yeah. My dad wanted to be a Bollywood actor. My mom wanted to be a doctor. That was her dream. My mom, she would say that I could use my stand up at the bedside. She's like, "You have a very good bedside manner. You can make all the patients laugh." I'm like, "That's terrible. Have you heard some of my jokes?" I'm like, I don't know if you want these people to laugh at that. My dad, like, anywhere there was karaoke. My dad was the first person in Dallas, first Indian in Dallas, to start his own radio show. He, out of his own money. There was a radio station in Forney, which is a Christian radio station. And on Saturday mornings, he would buy the station 3 hours of their time out of his own pocket. And he would play all the songs that he liked. I was his co-host. And then in 1979, there was a place here in Dallas called the Ola Padrida, I think is what it was called. It was a movie theater. And he would rent that out, and he would get the print from Mumbai. And he would show Bollywood movies because there was nobody showing Bollywood. It was hard to get movies at the time, and all these immigrants.
So your pops is building a community here.
He did.
And,
He did for
like,
sure.
Just getting Indians from all over. Hey, let's all watch a Bollywood film together.
Yeah, so the ticket price for, I think it was $2 per person was the price of admission, and then tea was $1, and 2 samosas were $1.50.
What's a samosa?
You guys know, Persians, Armenians, like you guys, it's a puff pastry.
Oh, okay.
I think you guys put meat in yours. That's the difference.
Yes.
You put like ground lamb or ground beef.
Depending on which variation you're talking. So we have a fried one, and
Yes.
we also have a baked one.
The baked one, I think you guys do vegetable.
No, we do that one usually with a mixture of different cheeses.
Oh, okay, that's what it is.
And then, but that one also comes in a ground beef kind of seasoned recipe version.
Yeah, the fried one.
The fried one, no, the baked and fried.
Okay,
so
yeah.
There's both variations, but I know
Ours
exactly
is
what you're
ours
talking
is
about.
potatoes and peas.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah, it's fantastic, man.
Sounds really good.
There's a place right down. I mean, not just take 75 straight down to Beltline. They have the best samosas in town. It's
Okay.
called Royal Sweets. But yeah, so and he made $0. It was just enough to pay
The expenses.
the expenses of having a movie reel shipped in from Mumbai, and then renting out. He rented out University of Dallas as well. He rented out their lecture hall because it came with the projector for free. So he would do that. Yeah, same thing. Like he fascinated by Bollywood movies. Fascinated Gregory Peck, Norman Wisdom from back in London. Like that's kind of the humor module that he had was Norman Wisdom, Laurel and Hardy.
Very dry.
Very dry.
Very different.
Yeah.
There's Laurel and
Yeah,
Hardy right
Laurel
there.
and Hardy right there. Yeah, and Jamie Masada from the Laugh Factory is obsessed with Laurel and Hardy. Like
Yeah?
if you go, he has the largest collection of Laurel
Really?
and Hardy. Yeah, if you go to the Long Beach Laugh Factory and you walk in, it's a museum as well. You go to the Laugh Factory in
never
Long
been.
Beach. You have to go the next time you're back. It's almost everything Laurel and Hardy you can imagine.
That's so cool.
Yeah, because that's what he would watch with his dad back in Iran.
It's so funny, these like small little threads
Yeah,
carry on into adulthood.
yeah.
These
it's-
nostalgia moments that we all have that are super unique just to us.
Yeah, you'd think, and then you meet somebody like you, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know your background, you know mine, even though
Yeah.
we've never had any conversation. But
In theory, we could have been switched and would have had the exact,
Exact
same
same
story
con-
right now. Going like,
but yeah,
same shit.
so anywhere that there was karaoke, my dad would show up and he would sing his ass off. And
Was he any good?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was good. Yeah, so when I decided, so my mom wanted me to be a doctor, and same thing. I was pre-med and really good in math and science. And
You mean you know how many days in a year?
some yours might have 356.
The universe I come from.
Yeah. I understand. But I remember I got into theater in high school when my football career didn't pan out. I got, the NFL wasn't calling, so I got into theater. And my dad's like, my dad never missed a play. Never missed a play. He missed every football game.
But he never missed a play.
Never missed a play. And I'd go, why don't you come to my this is how Indians are. This is how immigrants in general. I go, all my other friends' parents are, yeah, but your friends, they play. Why are we coming to watch you stand there? You tell me when you're going to play, I'll come. And it makes sense. And I was like, why are we going to sit in a stand? We can't eat any of the food. There's no hot dogs and we can't eat any of that stuff. So why are we coming? But every play, and from when I was in junior in high school, every play, you're a very talented actor. You should. And he tried his hardest. Like he would call people in Mumbai that he would get the prints from back in the day to show them, like, my son, he wants to be an actor. And like,
Did you want to be an actor, or was comedy always your?
No, I mean, comedy was always a thing. Acting was a thing. I was lucky enough to be. I think I'm good. I think I'm a good actor.
Have you done any Bollywood stuff?
No, but I have friends that are Bollywood actors. That's the best part. And so,
You look like a Bollywood actor, by the way. You understand that, right? Like my Instagram feed will periodically bring like a Bollywood film scene that is just so over the top,
So good.
fake. Like a dude riding a lion on top of an elephant,
Oh,
on
yeah.
top of a tank,
Yeah.
and he just like pole vaults 7,000 yards
Yeah.
into any direction wanted, and just blows everything up on landing, and you're like.
Yeah.
Wow, that's motivational if
Yeah,
nothing
and,
else.
and he calls that Tuesday.
Yeah. And then like if you research any of it, you're like, holy shit, Bollywood does more films than Hollywood.
811 films a year.
It's nuts, man.
It's 800 films, and it's so funny because
Where's the money coming from? I'm just
there's
curious.
a lot of underground money. Like there is a Mumbai mafia.
Really?
There's-
Indians have a mafia?
100%. Yeah. I stayed. So there's a place in Mumbai called Baikula. And there's a comedy club that's about 5 or 6 miles away, but they put you up in a hotel there, and that's where that's where the whole underground scene, like the mafia scene, is.
Okay.
So like I've walked into late night, it's India, so it's the Wild West. I've walked in like late night, and there's a bar that's still serving booze, and there's like one dude with like it's just chain smoking, and like his buddies are over here, and you walk in like it's closed. I'm like, no, but there's people here. It's closed. And you're like, oh yeah. I forgot where I was. So they produce a lot of to watch the money, to launder their money. They produce a lot of films. They put in a lot of Bollywood. So it's very. If you watch The Godfather, when he has the singer, that he's basically went to the band leader and got his contract.
Yeah.
That's a lot of that happens in India. So whenever you hear like Bollywood actors getting like shot at or having to have private security, it's because that's who brought them in, and now they've cut them off, and they're like, oh, now I'm So that happens quite a bit. But yeah, that's where the money comes from, and then private.
But these guys don't fear being like executed?
I mean, no, because they get government. Because I mean, they're so. I mean, the fandom out there, man, is ridiculous. When it comes to like them being fans of. Go watch my next guest needs no introduction. Go watch the one with Shah Rukh Khan.
Okay.
Go watch that, and there's literally every day there's 15 to 20,000 people that stand out of.
Wait, Letterman did that with Shah Rukh Khan?
Yeah.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
seen all of them.
Yeah, you think so?
I love that series so much.
If you watch the episode lineup, it won't have his name. I don't know what it is, but if you type it in, it'll pop up.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
This is why I haven't seen it?
Yeah. If you watch every season, you won't see his. I don't know what it is.
Why is he shadow banned in the U.S.?
I have no idea what's going on with it, but I will tell you, 15 to and I've seen this with my own eyes, 15, 20,000 people standing outside of his house, and he waves. He just waves, and the place goes bananas.
Why is that?
Because it's almost godlike. You know,
why? I get it, but
You know,
at the end of the day, it's still an actor
you know
portraying
this.
a role.
You know this. Now let me take education away from you, right?
Ah, yes.
Let me take luxury away from you.
Most
let
of
me
India
take-
is rural.
Yes. Let me take education and luxury away from you, and let me give you a box that shows you this guy who can ride an elephant on top of a lion on top of a tank. You'll believe it, and you'll go, man, that guy is who I wish I could be. So I'm gonna worship everything. There's a temple. There's a Bollywood actor who I've had the pleasure of meeting multiple times. He's a wonderful human being, Amitabh Bachchan. He's the biggest Bollywood actor in the world. I mean, there's nobody in India. He got injured in 1983, I believe it was, on a set of a movie. They shut down schools to pray for him.
Wow.
That's how big of a deal he is.
So it's like
There's temples with just his shoes that he wore on such and such movie. That's a temple, and people will go in and pray. Like that's what it is. So there is that.
I have to ask the question.
Yeah.
Is it possible that some of your gods are just like the actors of that? Where it was not acting, but it was some other portrayal of because it seems like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
that's so good.
'cause you
I
have
never thought of that, but yeah.
You have temples to dudes now, and they're shoes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, elephant, four hands. Why does this seem like it was the comic book of yesteryear? Not to offend. Again, I swear.
No.
I'm not trying to
You're
offend
not.
in
No.
any way.
I get it. No, but it is. It's a country that appreciates.
I mean, you can say this about most religions and their deities, and like the Greek gods, and
Yeah, but I mean, it's a country that appreciates mythology, appreciates the story and the structure behind it. So when you have, if you go back and you look at the Ramayana or the Mahabharata, you look at all these epics that are in the Hindu religion, they're all very grandiose. They're all very big. They're all like the characters are very big. The people are very big. The situations are very big. So they've taken that and put it on film.
But I think you need that for. I mean, you take the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament. You take the Holy Quran. You take the Hindu teaching, Buddhism. A lot of the stories are huge and foreshadowing, and
yes.
I think the reason for that is because what you go back to is education for a very long time was limited to what you learned in your village.
So I'm Brahmin, right? So I'm the top of so the caste system exists in. I'm top of the caste. So we were the ones that taught everybody. We're the scholars. So we taught everybody, right?
Yeah.
So we're the ones that had all the knowledge. So we knew how to read and write, and we would teach everybody else. So that's where that comes from. And how do you capture an audience?
Yeah, some third grade teacher at some point was like, you know what? It can't be the same thing.
So
Jesus has to walk on water this time, or something to that effect.
Something
you know
to
what
the
I mean?
effect, right? So when you go when you're in India and and you're meeting with the other Brahmins, like, man, nobody's listening to us. Well, you know what? I don't know if that's how it worked, but I've read enough and I've watched enough to where I'm like, man, this is like, it's engaging now. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. So I can imagine the idea behind it. Like, what a great idea. If the characters are so larger than life, it draws you in. The lesson that you learn out of that story is the most important part.
Yes.
Like, I don't care if I have to tell you about a four-armed elephant god who got his head cut off, but at the end of the day, it's always have your mom's back.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Like, the child was happy to sacrifice
his
himself
own
to protect
his mother.
His mother.
Yeah, so if that's the lesson that you get, cool. Then here comes his dad, who's this great destroyer, and here's this kid who gets his head cut off and replaced by enough, but he never let his mom, be put in any harm. If that's the lesson you take away, then so be it.
And I think the more deeper rooted thing in that
Sure.
is when you go from that boy to a man, you will protect your family the same way.
That's exactly
You know what I mean?
right.
Like, you can be at face level going, "What's a stupid elephant, dude?" But if you think about it more of as philosophy that could be applied to your life, then I would espouse my 3 boys to want to protect their mother. I don't want them to protect them with their own life because I understand my wife would be glad to give it up way before them. To protect her children.
Same.
But to the real version of that, protect your mother because one day you are going to protect your wife and
your family and your
children.
kids. Yes. So that's all. So that's what it is, right? It's the teachings of this.
Yeah.
And it's very, I say it a lot of times. Same allegories, and I say allegory. And when I say that, I don't mean to offend anybody, but it is. We grew up with. I don't know if you had Aesop's fables when you were growing up.
Yes, of course.
So I see a lot of that in religion, where like, here's a story about this guy that did this. What do you take away from that? Don't do this or do this. I take that away from every religion that again, it's very spiritual, but I'm not abiding to any specific thing.
Well,
but I take that away, like, and you say you're 3 boys, and it's so funny because in Hindu mythology and Hinduism in general, there's a lot of things happen in 3s. Like there's, you had Shiva and his 2 sons, Karthik and Ganesh, right? There's the 3s.
Yes.
Right? Then you had Ram, Lakshman, and Shatrughan, 3 boys. 3. Right? So you start going through that and you see the 3s, and you see how there's power, again, strength in numbers, and how everybody attributes to their own, to that story and holds their own weight to it. So I see a lot of that. And then you have India, which is very big in numerology, astronomy, astrology, and then spiritualism on top of it. So I see all of that incorporated in people's day-to-day lives, and that's very cool. You got the 3 boys, and like in my head, like they all were like bow and arrows, and like big strong kids one day. Like that's the thing I saw in my head, and I was like, that's kind of cool, man. You got your own little military. You got your own little your own little system here. It's really cool.
And that's the thought in my head too. That's probably the main reason we left California. My wife and I came here, visited, and we were like, oh, okay, there's a good chance we can raise our 3 boys into 3 men. Yeah.
And
I'm happy taking that risk to give them that better opportunity.
Yeah. And I think, and I came from here to LA. And so for me, it was different because you grew up with, in Glendale especially.
Yeah.
Tremendous.
Most of my life, Glendale, yeah.
Okay, so we joke about it all the time. You've seen us do this I've done it 1,000 times at the Laugh Factory. I'm like, I had the luxury of visiting Glendale. I was just I've loved the luxury of visiting Armenia. I was just in Glendale, and my buddy picked me up in a yellow BMW. I'm not sure if it was his, but he picked me up in one. Like, we all do that stuff, very stereotypical, whatever.
Yeah,
but you grew up with an Armenian community. When I was growing up here, there was Indians in North Dallas, but Mesquite, it was me and my family, and then maybe a handful here and there. So we had Temple. So we'd go to Temple on Sunday, and then I would see all the other Indian kids. Monday through Saturday, I'm with white kids, blonde-haired, blue-eyed girls. That's why I find blonde-haired, blue-eyed women very attractive. I've dated one Indian girl, and she was in LA, and that was a nightmare. I don't know, never do that again. But I dated one Indian girl ever, but because that's what you perceive to be. You perceive as a kid when your buddies are like, man, check out that girl, she's so hot. That registers in your brain, and you go, okay, this is what hot is.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Right? So you had that. I went from here there, where I go to LA the first time, and the first time I did the Laugh Factory, I just posted on social media like, hey, just got past the Laugh Factory. It's my first night. Saturday night, I'm on the midnight show. And it was packed full of Indians. I was like,
oh yeah.
No. I was like, how'd you guys? Well, somebody saw it on your Facebook. I'm like, somebody else saw that I was going to be here on my Facebook, and that's why you're here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we spread that around. I'm like, because in Dallas, I could go, hey man, I'm at the Improv the entire month and I'd be lucky if 15 Indians show up, because the whole idea here is, I will see them next time. There, what people in LA realize as far as the industry goes is if we show our presence, Hollywood will recognize that we need more of a role.
Yeah, because Hollywood is, and we keep hearing the stupidity of like, oh, the Jews, oh, the this, oh, the LGBT community owns Hollywood. None of that actually matters.
Right.
The dollar sign owns Hollywood.
Oh, yeah, the
and
money.
The dollar sign will always be the king of Hollywood. They will follow that forever. So, to that effect, if there's an agent sitting at the Comedy Store,
Yeah.
midnight, and the night hasn't been going well for anybody, and then out of nowhere, 11:30, there's this line around the block for someone he or she has never heard of.
That's exactly what happened with me.
And that person murders because
I got passed at the Laugh Factory on a Wednesday. I performed Saturday midnight show. I had my first manager on Wednesday. No, sorry. It was Tuesday. Tuesday night, Laugh Factory. Saturday night, midnight show. Monday morning, get the call. Tuesday morning, meet with the agency. Wednesday got signed. It was that fast.
Because
I just went
on a random midnight.
Well, I don't believe in coincidence. It was
Neither do I.
It was a girl that was here in Dallas that used to cover us. I don't know how long this podcast is going to be, but I'm having more fun talking to you.
We can go as long as you like.
Okay, so there was a girl here who is now Matt Rife's manager.
Really?
Right, yeah. And Matt's been a friend of mine since he was 17.
I would love to get the guy on the podcast if possible.
Let's see what happens when he comes here. I'm sure he gets inundated with requests.
I do this podcast for a reason in Dallas.
Yeah.
I have no competition here.
Oh yeah, for sure.
In LA, I would be screwed. In New York, I'd be screwed. Austin, I'd be screwed because really big name comedians are there.
Yeah.
And they have big podcasts.
Yeah.
And let's say it's you.
Yeah.
And you have a choice between going on Joe Rogan's podcast, Kill Tony, Tom Segura,
Or yours?
or Brett Kreischer's podcast,
Yeah.
or some guy like me in the Austin area that's just trying to
I would do
figure-
yours.
You may think of it that way, but a lot of people, and I don't blame them for it, look at, dude, there's a humongous bump I will get by being
Yeah, man.
on
But
this
here's the
podcast.
thing,
And here's the other thing.
Yeah.
If you don't know the people I just mentioned and they give you that opportunity,
Yeah.
there's no reason to pass it up because that can also open massive doors in your career as a comedian.
But I also,
I'm lucky because I don't have anyone that's trying to do an interview-based podcast
until
with
you
comedians.
see mine next week called. No, I'm just kidding. No.
No, I know comedians that do podcasts here, but they have a really interesting kind of like dynamic or a niche. It's like a group of them having
it's
fun
not an
with
interview
something.
show. But no, I've always been a fan of the underdog, and I've always been like,
I appreciate that.
no. But here's what I'm saying: like when now here, you're not the underdog. You're the only one.
Right.
But if you're like, hey, if we're in Austin and it's Bert and Tom and those and Kilton, like all those guys, and you called me, I'd be like, yeah, of course, because my thing is like I want to be that guy that went, hey man, I did his thing when he was it was in a studio inside of his guest house, whatever. Now he's got this whole big place and he's got doing this and look at all the guys. Same Matt. I've known Matt since he was 17. And Matt was broke and would take the bus. And I remember I would take him a couple times. I was like, we went to dinner. I was like, hey man, let me take you to dinner. Just BS with you, whatever.
Right.
And and at the end of dinner, I'm like, hey, order something for tomorrow, so you have food at home, because I'm very much a Jewish mother like that, in the sense where I'm a very Indian mom, where I can't eat if I know you haven't eaten. Like it bugs me. I did the CBS showcase. I got lucky. I auditioned for this thing. It's 3,800 people auditioned for 20 some odd spots. It's the first thing I ever auditioned for in LA, and I got it. And we're at the Radford Studios for CBS back in the days, 2012 into 2013. And every day we'd go and rehearse. And every day it was a sketch comedy show. It was basically a big showcase for diversity, right? Like my class was Karan Soni, who is who's Dopinder on Deadpool, and he's if you watched the new Spider-Man, he's the Indian Spider-Man. He's the voice.
He's the voice of that? I saw it a couple of weeks ago with my kids.
He was my castmate on that show.
Dude, he is the original Deadpool movie.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, but like I need to give this guy his props. Like
Karan Soni from Noida.
His delivery
He's brilliant.
is so damn good, man. It's so good.
He's brilliant. We did this sketch where we were both tech support, and we have the Indian accent or whatever, and then when the phone hangs up, we have regular accents.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh man, that was hilarious. They bought it. Like they buy this whole thing. We're all from here, but yeah. So
I love that. That's awesome.
yeah, and so like he's gone to do Deadpool, and I think he's the only one. I know T.J. Miller's not coming back, but I think Carden Sony is now. He's doing this. I forgot what I was talking about.
About a thing you did, the showcase with
the
diversity.
CBS showcase.
Yes.
But what were we talking about before that?
A bunch of stuff. Matt Rife came up.
Oh, Matt Rife.
Lunch
So
and,
yeah,
food for the next day.
yeah. And so I would do the CBS showcase, and I'd go in, and we had to be there at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning, and I would stop at McDonald's, and I would buy like 10 sausage biscuits, even though it was just me eating. But I would put it on the table because I couldn't eat my breakfast knowing that they haven't eaten. So same like with Matt. So Matt, this struggling guy who's doing so well now, and couldn't happen to a better person. Like everybody wants to hate on him, and I think it's hilarious because he's insanely good looking. He's brilliantly funny. His timing is impeccable, and one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet in your life.
Yeah, but
like, and you want to just
Matt's
hate
so
him.
good at self-deprecation though. Like he
Yeah.
leans into that cute persona.
He doesn't, but I
to
don't.
the
I also,
max.
but I also realize I'm almost 100% positive he doesn't realize just
How
good
beautiful
looking
he is?
Yeah, I'm almost positive. Like we would joke
Yeah.
about it, but so what happened was I don't, like I said, don't believe in coincidence. There was a girl here that used to work for NBC5. She would do the online stuff, like what to do this weekend in Dallas, and she's Persian. She would always cover our shows. So all the Indian shows, all the Indian comics, all the Arab comics, anybody that was in town, she would cover and put online. She gets an internship at the Laugh Factory.
Nice.
From that, she goes to a host box office. From that, one of the floor ladies quits. She gets that. None of this is coincidence. When I saw her here, before she left, she's like, "Oh, I'm going to be an intern. I don't know where it's going to take me, but wish me luck. Best of luck." When I got to LA, she's the GM of the Laugh Factory.
Nice.
So I had just
She's the person to know.
I had just gotten to LA when my mother was diagnosed with cancer. 2 weeks, I'd moved 2 weeks before, and my mom 2 weeks later gets diagnosed with cancer. So now I'm going back and forth. She passes away in June of 2012. My dad's like, go spend time in LA. You know, now mom's gone, so you don't have to worry about coming back and forth so much. Take Christina, and I won't say her last name, but Christina, I take her to dinner. I was like, hey, catch me up. I've been gone. And she's a really good friend. I was like, catch me up on the scene. Like, what's happening? She's like, I need to get you into the Laugh Factory. I got to get you a spot at the Laugh Factory. I was like, all right, that'd be great. What do I need to do? She's like, I'll call you when I get you a spot. Normally it takes years.
Yeah,
And
because like Comedy Store, Laugh Factory.
Years.
For people that don't understand, getting there, not just doing an open mic, but being like actually invited to do a set there.
Yeah.
Some people take 5-10 years.
Laugh Factory on average is 4.5.
Yeah.
The Comedy Store can be 3 to 4.
So it's a long
process.
hard road.
And so I got called to do a guest spot, and I walk in as Jamie Masada, the owner, is walking out.
Nice.
And I know they record, so I'm like, oh, this is perfect. He's not going to see me. I don't have to worry about nerves. I don't have to worry about anything. He can watch the video on Wednesday or Thursday or whatever it is. He can watch it on his own time, and then he can decide then. I'm on stage, and I see she runs after him and catches him in the parking lot. That guy I was telling you about's here. So I'm walking on stage, and I see him walk back in. I'm like, oh, there he is. The man, the myth, the legend, Jamie Masada.
Are you nervous at this point, or are
I
you still cool as a
I
cucumber?
My legs are shaking, and so I go, and I got 5 minutes. I get 5 minutes or 6 minutes, and I'm speeding past the first minute, and I know it. And I go, you got to breathe, man. You're gonna pass out. You got to breathe. And I get a really nice applause break. And if you watch I have the clip. I'll send it to you. But if you watch the clip, you can see me go. Like you would see my body, like
I can
inhale.
physically see you.
You can see me inhale and exhale, and then I just kind of
The panic attack goes away.
and I think I'm cussing a little too much is the only thing. And I walk off stage, and a buddy of mine who was there taps me on the shoulder. I'm not making eye contact with Jamie Masada. I don't want him to see me. I'm not making eye contact. And my buddy who's from here, who's a great comic, Dustin Ibarra, slaps me on the shoulder, goes, "All right, man, I'm out of here. I'll see you later." And I go, "All right, dude." And I look over, and Jamie just, with his fingers, like, "Come here."
Wow.
And I walk over, and I was like, "Oh, man, here we go." And he goes, "Buddy, what do I say?" And I go, "I know, I am." And he goes, "I love everything about you, buddy." And I go, "So glad you did." I started to say, "I'm sorry."
Total 180 in your head.
Total 180. I started to say, "I'm sorry." And I went to, "So glad you did." I passed you for all my club, buddy. I passed you for everything. You call tomorrow. You send your, that was, whatever. And then that was, August. And November, I'm headlining Vegas.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, what a quick rise,
Yeah, but I mean,
it's not quick. I mean,
but
years
it's
of work.
Yeah,
but
it's also when I said, like, just putting it on social media and Indians making, like, just a presence known. So when I went from here to there, it was just such a culture shock, because I wasn't, like, they'd heard of Indian music. They'd heard of, like, I had my buddy Arsen Dalian, who is a great Armenian cat out, and he lives in Silmar. Like, we're still friends. He used to see me at the Comedy Store.
A lot of Armenians in Silmar now.
Yeah. So he used to come to the Comedy Store, and then he followed me over to the Laugh Factory. When his son was born, he messaged me. Like, that's how good of friends we are. He's like, "Yo, I'll pack it out, man. I'll bring the Armenian guys too." And he's like, "Yeah, you know who my favorite, Raj Kapoor, and these songs and this." And I'm like, "Oh my God, people know about us here."
Oh yeah.
Here.
Oh yeah.
Here, nobody knew us. So now that's when I saw today when I walked up and I was at your front door, and I go, "Oh, you're Armenian."
Yeah.
I saw the flag on your front door.
Yeah, you spend enough time in LA.
You'll see
learn
them,
about it.
especially on Armenia Day when you have them on the cars and everybody's, like, driving up and down in the valley. Like,
Yep.
Yeah, I see that. I'm like, but you went from there where that, like, to here. So I understand why that move happened because of where LA is now. But you have to understand, like, 11 years ago when I went from here to there, I was like, "Oh, this feels like home."
Dude, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Like, it makes me cry almost makes me cry every time I go back to LA. What has happened to the place that I loved so much?
Yeah. And I can see that, though. That's the thing. Like, when I went from here to there, I was like, "Oh my God, I am home."
Yeah.
And then I've gone back and I'm like, "Oh man, what is going on?"
It's not the same, right?
It's not. I mean, so for me, like, when I'm on Sunset and I'm going to the clubs and I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Yeah, it's the same for me, because it's still the same clubs. I know the smell of the Laugh Factory walking in. Like,
Right.
I know what it's, and I know it's going to be. The show is going to be good top to bottom. It's going to be fun. It's going to be packed. But then during the day, like, I was like, "Oh, I got to go run do this," and I'm like looking around. I'm like, "Yeah, man, I kind of let that. Okay."
There's almost like, and people don't want to admit this, but you feel it when you don't live there anymore, especially when you live here.
Yeah.
There's like this aura in the air of despair.
No, it's sadness.
Yeah, something's
No.
like everybody's getting
My buddy
comfortably numb with the situation that they are living in.
Yeah, my buddy is a Bollywood actor, and he's done really well here in the States. The first time he came, he's like, "You could smell the sadness."
Yeah.
He's like, "I would never live in LA." This is years ago. It's Veer Das, who's this great.
Oh, yeah, I know Veer Das,
Yeah,
of
Veer Das
course.
is. I met him when I was in India doing stand up, and
Shout out to Veer Das, dude.
yeah. So I was telling Veer when I was over there, many years ago, and I've done his travel show on Amazon, but many years ago, I
He
told
had
him,
a special on Netflix too, right?
yeah, multiple special. I think
Yes.
he's recording another one. And
Check him out. He's really good. He's a really funny comedian.
Yeah, he's brilliant, and he's a sweetheart, and him and his wife, wonderful. His whole team, his whole base, all great comics, all good people. But I was like, "Hey, man, you got to come out to LA." And he's like, "No, I don't think they're going to." This is before he made the move over here. Or made the move to coming over here. He's like, "No, I don't think anybody's going to get me." And I was like, "Dude, just come out for a couple of weeks." He's with CAA in India. You got to meet CAA out here. They're going to love you. He comes out here and he's like, "This is great." He's up in the clubs. He got Conan. I think the first week he's here, he did a little thing on Conan.
Which CAA, for people that don't know, is the largest agency group
Yes,
in the world.
Creative Artists Agency.
Yeah, they manage pretty much everyone.
Yeah. I was with them for a while, and now I'm at a different agency. But I remember Veer were at the Den on Sunset,
Okay.
and Veer's like, "Man, you can see, there's a lot of sadness in the air." And I'm like, "You have to understand why that is, though. Like, once you leave and you go back, you'll understand. Like, people's dreams die there. Like, that's the sad part of LA."
That's why I left. My dream was dying.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
My dream was dying.
So that's what, like, when I see, like, I have a great story. I don't know about anybody else's story, but I was doing this tour called The Pundits with Punchlines, because that's when, they're trying to find, the Gurus of Comedy did so well, so people are trying to find their way. And the promoter of the show is taking me to this Indian restaurant because that's where everybody thinks an Indian.
And this is early 2000s, I'm guessing?
Early 2000s. And we're walking down the street, and there's a guy. We're on Hollywood Boulevard, and there's a guy. He's sitting on the ground, and I can see him. This guy's talking to me about, oh, you got to move out to LA. This is the scene. Blah, blah, blah. I didn't have my hour yet, like my full hour that was tight that I wanted to move out with, and I didn't think I had the contacts. And so I see this guy, and he's rocking back and forth, and he goes from maniacally laughing to just crying, and I see it. And I'm like, wow. So as we're getting, this guy's like, hey man, you got to move. You got to make it your thing. This is where this is where dreams come true, man, blah, blah, blah. And we are walking up, and he goes, so tell me, man, why haven't you made the move here yet? And I go, you see him? And this is that kid that's rocking back and forth. He has a cup of coffee in front of him. And everybody thought it was a cup for change, but it was legitimately just coffee. And
right.
So, like, people are literally, like, walking by, like, throwing money. And he's just got coffee. Like, luckily, none of it's, like, fallen inside of his coffee. I go, that guy left from wherever he was with, man, fuck this. I'm going to LA. The band's going to make it, or I'm going to make it, or this is going to happen. All of these things are going to happen. Whatever. Screw you, small town. I'm out of here. And now he's on Hollywood Boulevard crying. I don't want to be that guy. I'll wait. I'll wait till the city invites me. And I've always said this about LA. When I was leaving it was COVID, and COVID proved that you don't have to live in LA to work in LA. Because
right.
you can
Yeah.
do everything Zoom. I still audition here. It's all through Zoom. Whenever they need me to come in, I just fly to LA, right? But I have the cost of living here. I don't have to fly to Los Angeles. But what was I saying? So he was, I was like, I said this. I go, when LA's done with me, I'm not one of those guys that's like, I'm going to keep trying to be famous. Like, if you watch your reality shows and your spin-offs on reality shows and your spin-offs of spin-offs, those guys have a hard time not being famous. That's what happens is they get famous and it stops. And then now they're doing some midnight reality show that's on, whatever network at 1 o'clock in the morning because they want somebody to still see them on TV. I'm not that guy. I said the day that LA is done with me, I will say thank you for everything, and I'll see you soon. And when I was leaving, I remember I was leaving to come back here, but just the cost of living was so much easier. I was doing all my stuff on Zoom anyway. I'm like, why am I here? The clubs weren't open. I was getting all this work in the Southwest and the Midwest. I'm like, it's just easier to fly out of here, so I'll leave. I stopped on the 10. The same spot I remember coming in on. I pulled off on the exit, and I just stood out and I got out of my car. And I go, man, that was fun. Thanks for the 11 years. I'll see you soon.
Yeah.
I got back in.
You know what? Your story reminded me of, I was listening to an interview Tom Hardy did years ago, the actor.
Yeah.
And he was talking about Charlie Bronson, the famous prisoner in the UK, calling him because he portrayed him in a film.
Mm-hmm.
And Charlie was talking about, and Tom was going through a breakup and was just like in a really bad place at that moment. And he kind of tells Charlie the whole story of what's going on. And Charlie said something, and I think it really applies right now to what you just said is, he said sometimes, it was about a kid that got stuck in a ditch and water was filling up and the kid died eventually. And he's like, you know what I would have done? I would have cut my leg off because sometimes you have to cut a piece of yourself off in order to grow.
Yeah.
I think so many people get caught up in the fantasy of the dream that will never be.
Yeah.
That they don't want to cut that off to pursue a dream that could be.
Yeah, and I also think what happens is people get caught up in whatever idea they have or idea they've been sold of what making it is.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know what.
Well, because
for me, it was one of my fraternity brothers from college. He's like, so what is this making it? He's like, he came to visit. And he's like, what is this making it? Everybody keeps talking about when you make it. I'm like, I don't know, man. He goes, hey, man, have you performed in India? I was like, yeah. He's like, have you performed in the UK? Yeah. Saudi? I mean, to Dubai? I was like, yeah.
You made it, bro.
He's like, I think if you hung up your boots today, man, nobody's going to say anything.
No.
And I was like, all right. And then I also feel like people don't appreciate the moments they're in. I take pictures of those. There's a picture that I have. It's me, Dom Herrera, Jeremy Hotz, and Harlan Williams. Those are the guys I watched on Showtime when I was a kid.
Some of my favorite people in the
Right.
world.
And I'm sitting at the same, and I remember like Dom's like, "Hey Raj, can I sit down?" I'm like, "Yeah, man." And he sits down, and I look over, and there's Harlan, and there's Jeremy, and there's me, and I'm like, if you would have told 17-year-old me that you guys would have all been on the same show together, I would have laughed at you. So I stood up to take a picture, and one of the waitresses was like, "I'll take it." I was like, "Oh, okay." So I sit down, and I get a picture, and I can tell you, there's been 1,000 times I'm just sitting up watching TV, and I'll just go through, and I'm like, "Oh man, that was a good time. That was a lot of fun." Like, you have to enjoy those moments, and I think people go, "Well, that's a moment to the next moment." I'm like, no, but I really like. For me, I'm like, I really like this one.
Yeah, like to that effect. I mean, if the 17-year-old version of me that wasn't allowed to go to film school,
Yeah,
could see me now 20 years later going like, dude, you found your way back into
Yeah.
this realm. Like,
yeah. How
you
long
know.
did you get out? How long did you get out of the? You said you found your way back in.
20 years.
Oh, you have 20 years.
I always wanted to pursue something in the film, and because growing up in LA, and
Yeah.
I didn't know where I would fall, but I wanted to go to film school to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do that, but you know, again, you come from the
Yeah,
same kind
No,
of background
I
where you
understand,
have
yeah.
immigrant parents. We don't know anybody in the industry. How would we ever break in?
Yep.
Single parent family, it's very difficult. So like you go a completely different route, traditional college, get a 4-year degree,
What was your degree in?
communications.
Oh, okay. And then what did you do with it?
Nothing. I
Yeah.
ended up being really, really, really in debt, flat broke, not because of college, because of stupid mistakes I made,
Sure.
and forced my way into the healthcare industry.
Oh, that's great.
Same brother-in-law that I was talking about, like literally kind of forced my hand and be like, I can do that.
Yeah.
And he was like, all right. You know, nobody had any faith at that moment. Can't blame them because like, you're the black sheep. You fucked up so bad.
Yeah.
You know, you like really ruined your life.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
You're only in your early 20s.
Yeah.
So they're like, yeah, all right, whatever. And then you come through on it and they're like, oh shit, he did it.
That's what, yeah.
But that's what desperation teaches you, where you're like, I can't get out of this hole, and no is already in my back pocket. I can just keep knocking on doors until I get a yes.
There you go. That's the thing.
It's that immigrant mentality that like it carries with you.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you. It is that there's
But
there's an inherent thing that's inside of us that's like, okay, it goes back to me in the football thing and being in the underdog. Like, I'm going to play.
yeah.
I'll quit, but I'm not quitting until I do what I said I was going to do. And then we'll see where it goes. And then I knew that I played my sophomore year of high school. I got to play. Like, cheerleaders decorating my locker. And
Nice.
like cookies and I got that.
You're the man.
I got that. And I was like, you know what? I'm done.
I did it.
I'm finished. Now I'm going to go pursue theater. But I would not have let myself quit. And that's the same thing. You have that tenacity, and you have that, because I used to do a joke about it on stage. My mom was in the war between India and Pakistan. She was stabbed in both knees by Pakistani soldiers.
Okay.
She was left to die. She put tourniquets around her own legs and found her whole family. This is all 100% true. And I'm like, you can't complain about having a bad day to that lady.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
She'd probably show you the holes in her
no,
legs.
she would. You'd see that. Like, she would just be on the couch, and you just see the
scars?
the scars.
Wow.
And like, in my head, I'm like, yeah, who am I complaining to? Oh, I can't get into this club. They said no. I remember the joke in my head was like, these guys in school, they're really mean to me. She's like, oh, they're mean to you? Did they try to kill you? I'm like, no, then shut up. Like, that's the whole thing, is like, I'm not complaining to that lady.
Yeah.
So that's always carried with me. So whenever I think like, man, I'm having the worst day ever, I'm like, 7-year-old her pops into my head.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I go, she's had the worst day ever.
For me, it's the equivalent of the what kind of reinforces and gives me power or keep going forward drive is I moved to Texas with my family.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of there's fear inherently because,
Brand new move.
You kind of zero out everything that was your life.
Yeah.
And move everyone that's depending on you here. And they're like, okay, dude, you did it. Now what?
Yeah.
And I, anytime some sort of inclination of fear would come into my mind, I would be like, oh yeah, but your mom left an entire country.
Yeah.
alone with
Yeah.
you and came to another country, granted, she spoke the language because she had a master's degree and,
Yeah.
English lit was part of it. So she read English and
Yeah.
knew how to, write in all of it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
can you imagine the fear? And this is like the early 90s. You don't have Google Maps. You don't
Right.
have anything like that. You got a Yellow Pages.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I always have that kind of like on a forever loop going like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, this is bullshit. You're still in America. You're still an American. Nothing changed. You just moved.
Yeah, my parents had the same immigrant story, right? They're like, we came to this country with $18.
Yeah, something
And my
to that
mom was
effect.
like, my dad had $18, my mom had 26, and she used to get so angry with me because this is the comic, and I was, like I said, born comic. Like, we came to this country, one suitcase, $26. I'm like, you lived in London for 17 years. You didn't sell anything? like, 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 what kind of shit friends did you have that let you leave? Like, so where are you guys going? America. Do you have some money?
No.
$26. All right, see you later. Like, who are these guys? Like, I don't want to be friends with them. So she would get some, but it's true. We had 26. I'm like, the house? Nobody sold anything? Like that, but that's the thing. My parents, I think, knew they were never going back. I don't think they ever said it to themselves because they didn't want to die here. Both of them died in Texas. But my dad,
Like a true American.
but my dad had dementia. My dad would like see certain friends like, you're from New Delhi, even though they were from here. You're from New Delhi, right? Can you please take me next time you go back? I want to go with you. He wanted to go back, but I think he knew he wasn't. And when the dementia hit, I think that came out, where you could hear like what he really wanted, even though he had forgotten who people were and whatever. He wanted to go back home, but they leave that country knowing they're not coming back. That's balls. We don't have balls. Like, we move to a different city. We can always move back.
Yeah.
You can always hop a plane and move back to.
Oh yeah. I
You
still
know what I
have
mean?
family over there. There's an entire ecosystem that's still waiting for me.
For you right there.
And it's only like a Spirit flight away if they don't cancel it.
They left, and the whole thing, like, they couldn't move back because what, you went there and made nothing,
Yeah.
right?
Because there's shame.
Yeah. So when people are like, so you moved back from Los Angeles? I'm like, yeah. Oh man, what was that like? But I'm still working.
But I'll be honest, I impose that shame on myself right now.
Oh, do you? Because you moved?
Oh yeah.
Oh, then you don't have to do that.
I do it on purpose.
Oh, then that's motivation.
Yeah. No.
Oh,
I
that's
do it on
different.
purpose. I'm like, I don't want to take a step back. I took a giant leap. I don't want to take a step back.
Yeah.
So it's purposefully done. It's not like anybody's shaming me or would. It's just like I'm shaming
That's your
myself.
motivation.
Yeah, it's like,
that's what keeps you doing
Don't
your
fuck
grind.
this up.
That's what keeps doing your grind, and that's great, and that's always powerful. Mine is my mom. Again, you talk too much. I hope they give you a job where they pay you to talk. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna keep talking. I'm gonna keep talking until they stop paying me to do it. That's my thing.
I don't know if I ever talked too much, but I was always a very inquisitive
Same.
kid.
Yeah.
Growing up, like I was very interested.
I always wanted
in
to
the
know why
obscure
something.
and everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I don't know. Like outside of my kids and my family,
Yeah.
nothing has given me more happiness or joy than this.
Right.
Just these conversations are just so. I enjoy them. I look forward to them.
Yeah.
So
and I was, when you asked me to do this, I looked up the stuff that you've done, and it's so good. I was like, I'm excited to do this.
I appreciate it. I
You know?
really do. Your name came up a bunch of times in previous podcasts that I've done.
Yeah.
Like, there's a community of people here that know who you are, and they're like,
Yeah.
you need to see this guy.
It'll
And I
be
was
a
like,
4-hour podcast.
no, it doesn't matter. But I'm like, yeah, but he's unavoidable. I've been seeing this guy everywhere. I just haven't seen him live. So that's kind of one of the precursors. I need to see you.
Yeah.
Because it really sets up a lot in my head. Of
What?
the
Yeah, you were at the.
I was at
Banger
DCC, a couple of days ago, I think.
Was it Saturday show where you were at?
Yeah, it was not the late show, but the 7:30 show, I think.
7:30 show. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, that's not the one with the Reverend, was it?
It was. The Reverend
the
was
Reverend.
there. Oh, my God.
That guy was amazing.
I love that guy.
Yeah, he's an
Hated
actual
the
Reverend.
other side of the.
Oh, that's where you were.
No, I was actually. I'm almost always lucky. I try to sit in the back with the comedians because I take notes and stuff.
Oh, gotcha.
So
Okay.
I don't ever want to bother somebody on stage because I'm like, who's this douchebag with a pen and pad?
Oh no, I wouldn't mind. But yeah,
But some comedians, especially those that are like still kind of getting their bearing and are funny, could be distracted by thinking, what if this guy's trying to steal my jokes or something?
yeah, the Reverend was good, wasn't he?
He was awesome.
and he turns out
man.
he's a Reverend and a Christian comic.
He was awesome.
Yeah, he was very sweet. He came up and he bought one of the DVDs, and he's like, "Thanks," and he paid with cash. And I remember making the joke about to him about something about cash, like being the reverend, like you guys are always flush with cash, and then he paid me in cash, and I was like, "Oh, that's hilarious." But it turns out he's a Christian comic as well.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Wow, how
Yeah,
cool is that?
Yeah, and
But I mean, he and his wife were just dressed to the
To the
T,
nines.
their
Yeah, yeah,
Sunday
yeah.
best, to the whole deal.
yeah,
you
that's
know.
what that was the whole. I think I said I was like, you guys are dressed because you know you have church in the morning, so you know you're gonna be. And he's like, I was like, and he was like, how many churches do you have? He's like, I'm involved with 3 churches,
Yeah, that's right.
and he gave me his card, and he's a reverend.
I don't know. I don't know if you remember or not, but like when you did the whole bit about seeing Jesus,
Yeah.
you tied it into the Reverend.
Yeah.
So it was really cool because that's why I like seeing a comic live, is because
Yeah.
there's always this dynamic of we share in a group versus watching you on a TV or on a phone.
Yeah.
Very different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
And that goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of this podcast, is it translates when you, good or bad, right? When you say, well, I don't like what he said, I'm not going, and I'm going to make sure that nobody that thinks like me is going as well.
yeah.
Well, that translates, and it goes both ways. If you go, man, I like him, and I'm going to make sure that everybody that likes what I like sees him too. You know, if we can find a healthy balance of that, it's like, hey, man, I didn't like that one bit. It kind of fell flat for me. I'm a Christian, or I'm this, or I'm that, or I'm whatever. But I did like the rest of his set, so I'm still going to go. Like, that doesn't cut into anybody's money. That doesn't cut into anybody's bottom line. It doesn't cut into anybody's creativity. It doesn't take away from the artistry.
But I don't see that as the comedian's fault in any way. I see it as being so tied to an ideology that when someone says something counter to it,
Yeah.
that you negate to listen to anything else the person has
I
to
just
say.
don't know.
Why do we do this? I don't understand.
I
why
don't
we do
know.
this.
I'm 47. I've lost both parents, right? And so I've never understood the outrage.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't understand. I don't get it. Like, the life is short. I've watched them both die, right? I know. Like, and that's why I'll post it again, where I'll post it on Instagram like tomorrow, inspired by this. I say it. I go, life's undefeated. If we can just laugh a little bit and have a good time, because nobody's leaving this place. Because if you look at life, it's zero. It's billions and zero, unless what you believe in. Then it's 1
Right.
and billions. But it's taking you. It's going to take you. So have a good time while you're here, because everything else, man, like, I see it. I watched immigrants come from this kind of, like, I watched my parents like struggle here and make something and then pass away. Right? You know what I mean? I've watched the cycle.
You saw them fulfill
They're-
the fantasy that was giving
That
my
was-
children a better life.
Exactly.
And they've done that
And they did.
in
And so,
spades.
yeah, and so I'm like, let's all take a step back and kind of see, like, where's this outrage coming? Well, I don't like what he said about this. Okay, well then, again, change channel.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we used to do. My dad didn't like NBC News. He liked CBS. Hey, change the channel. I don't like this. It was one guy. I don't like that guy. I'm like, it's just telling the news, but he had another option. And
Yeah.
so I got that since I was a kid. Like, just if you find another option for yourself.
The other thing is, like, if you actually stopped, judging everybody because they don't ascribe to your ideology or religion or way of life, and hear other things, we're so much more alike than we are different.
Oh, and you might learn something too.
We are, like, you come from an Indian background, I come
Yeah.
from an Armenian background. You know, if we had our family standing next to each other, they wouldn't think there's any relation whatsoever. But there's so much similarity in the way we grew up.
And the beauty of LA for me was, I didn't know what an Armenian was
Until you got there, right?
until I got to LA. And then, like, the owners of the Haha in Burbank,
Yeah.
they're Jack and Terry and their son Jack Jr. That's my people. When I was working on my first special, they let me close out every night by doing 30 minutes so that I had my special tight.
The last time I was at the Haha, it was still COVID times.
Oh, okay.
And they were doing outdoor shows.
Oh, and I did them.
It was so
I did those.
awesome.
I did those in the back
Beautiful
on the
hot
patio.
summer night.
Yeah. I used to do those all the time. Jack would call. I was like, "Hey man, you want were just doing it
It
outside.
was so much fun.
Yeah, and some of the comics would have to stand in the back because we weren't allowed to be, because they were still, I think, still doing food. So I don't think they were allowed to, like, we were allowed to be near the kitchen.
I know we went and it was like Latin night because it was
Oh,
a
yeah.
bunch of Latin comedians, one after another.
Yeah.
And they just murdered, dude.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember their names. This was a couple of, few years ago, and they were like up and coming guys. But
Yeah.
they absolutely murdered.
But Renee Vaca, who's killing it right now on the scene, he's out of the haha.
Yeah?
Yeah, for sure.
Really? I didn't know that.
He's great, and he's a haha kid. And they were always so, we didn't always get along. Jack and I have always gotten along. Jack Jr., Jack Sr. and Terry and I have butted heads on a few things here and there, but at the end of the day, man, like it was like if I wasn't booked at the Laugh Factory, if I somebody avails and I'm like, oh, Tuesday, first place, I'm like, I know that's gonna have a killer crowd and it's gonna have a great response. I'm like, oh, let me hit up the haha.
Haha was this hidden gem, dude. Like,
oh yeah,
such a cool little place.
Yeah. And now, I mean, they're still killing it, and then there's just so much good stuff that happens out there. But it was one of those, like, I didn't know what an Armenian was. I'm like, all right, and then Arson, like I said, my buddy Arson and Jack and all those guys were telling me stories. I'm like, oh my god, this is my childhood. Like, this is all the same stuff. And then that's when you find out what's relatable. And then I like here cut my teeth on black audiences, like the urban audiences that they call them for the club, but the African American audiences. Like I cut my teeth on those guys, and I'm like, oh, we have the same thing. My mom, I open with like, how many people in here got beat by their mom? Everybody's ready. I'm like, so what's their weapon of choice? And people just start the joy of reminiscing about stuff like that, where everybody would find out, oh, I can't believe you were beat again. It wasn't like they were trying to kill us. It was
certain
whatever.
days.
Yeah, certain days.
Certain days when you messed up bad.
Yeah. But I go, what was the weapon of choice? And then we just all, and I go, and it's so funny because, again, I've had older black women come to me like, man, you stupid. I'm like, and like that's the biggest compliment. That's the biggest compliment you can get from an old black lady. Like, you stupid.
Because
like,
she relived her entire childhood and then her adulthood as a mom and laughed hard both times.
Yeah, and then they hug me like, oh, baby. And I always get you need Jesus. I'm like, all right. I'm like,
you're like, I've seen him.
I've seen him. Cheers to that, buddy. That was well done. Nice. See, there's a comic there. Look at that. You're going to be a comic one. I'm telling you, just keep doing stand up. You just thought that was the greatest callback to this entire podcast.
I've never done stand up.
Oh, you got to do it now.
I've had this conversation with a couple other comedians that say like, hey, you're doing a podcast interviewing comedians, but don't you ever want to be one? And I thought about it for a long while. I like being on this side of the chair.
Yeah.
I think there's something that would be tainted if I was on that stage.
You know who did a great job of what you're doing? This is David Letterman.
Yeah.
He was a Comedy Store comic.
Yeah.
There's a great picture that is, I know it's the Laugh Factory I think it's in Long Beach. I know there's one at the Laugh Factory in Vegas. And I've seen the picture 1,000 times. There's a great picture. It's Letterman. It's a guy named Tom Dreesen, who's amazing, and a couple other comics. And all of them are still, well, I think one passed away, but Leno's still doing stand-up. Dreesen still does stand-up, and Letterman interviews them. And I'm like, how cool is that? Like, it's what you're doing.
It's what I want to do. I find it so fascinating.
And this is such a comfortable environment. Like, if this wasn't, and your producer, I feel bad for, is going to have a hell of a time editing this. So
Reagan's great. I like her. She's awesome at producing.
Yeah, she's going to have a horrible time with this because it's so long. But I think you have created a space that's it's comfortable, man. Like outside the headphones, because I have earrings, and it's like this one's kind of digging. But outside of that, I'm like, oh, I forgot we have a time limit. So we could sit here and talk about this till evening.
So the time limit thing with me is it's a minimum barrier that I like to pass, which is 90 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Beyond that, it never needs to stop. I can always reset cameras every 2 hours and continue to record.
Oh, okay.
Forever.
Well, then
I have really big SD cards in there for a reason.
How does your audience feel about the?
So I haven't done a podcast that's gone into the 3-hour realm.
Oh, okay.
This one's probably going to go right there.
Let's do it.
We've had 2.5 hours, and if the conversation's good,
yeah,
people listen. People
Okay.
tune in. I don't have a big following yet, but
Okay.
working on it.
Well, I mean, we're gonna plug this on mine. So
I hope so. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, we're about to hit the 60,000 followers on Instagram.
Which is awesome.
Considering I had 1,200 followers in February.
Of this year.
Yeah.
So was it that video that went viral
Yeah.
that kind of just blew everything up?
It was a snowstorm, right? And ex-wife was like, "You got to get on social media, buddy. I don't know what you're doing. I mean, like all these other comics are doing it." I'm like,
So how long ago did you get on social media? When was this
"Oh, I mean, I
conversation?
started an Instagram page back then. I was doing memes and dumb shit like that. I
Okay,
wasn't
so it was
doing
like 15, 16 when you guys were together, like way back in the day.
no. I mean, so 17, I think, is when I started
The Instagram?
Instagram.
Okay.
I think 17. Yeah, and I was just doing memes and just dumb shit like that. And I had a meeting with Barry Katz.
Okay.
So you know Barry Katz. Barry was at a show, and he came up to me afterwards. I had a great show that night. Came up to me. He was like, "I want to have lunch with you." I'm like, "All right, let's have lunch." He's like, "You gotta, I want to rep you, but you have to have bigger social media numbers." And I'm like, "No, okay, I'm a comic. We're about being funny. This is cyclical, right? This whole social media thing's going to end because you guys are going to book all these guys that have all these followers. You're going to find out they're not good. And then you're going to come back to us. And then you forget show business. They still have to sell seats."
Yep.
So now I in January, I went, wait a minute. She's kind of been telling me this. I know the business side of things because of my parents. And I know the show side because I'm good. Why am I hesitant to cross the two? And it is one of those, well, what if I get no followers? What if I get nobody likes to this? So I was like, you know what? Let's just go ahead and do it. I was booked on a cruise. My buddies a lot of my buddies are professional wrestlers. And so I was on this AEW cruise.
We need to talk about this.
I know. So a buddy of mine, Lance Archer, who is with AEW. And then my neighbor was Brad Williams, who's the little person, this comic.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And he's big in wrestling as well. And so we've been on tour together. Like, he's been touring, and I was his feature act. He's like, "Hey, man, do you want to do this wrestling cruise?" I'm like, "Okay. Social media needs this. I'm doing this wrestling cruise. They have, I mean, it's going to be a different audience. Let me just post this joke. Let me just post the Jesus football joke."
Okay.
And I had done it 6 months before. I think I was at 6,000 views. And this is how little I know about, Instagram. I'm like, 6,000 views? I mean, that's 6,000 people that have seen it.
Right.
That's pretty good. And so I take the same video and I put the captions on it. And I upload the video, and my buddy Josh Nasser, I don't know if you know Josh Nasser, he's a Jewish comic out of LA. He used to open for Pauly Shore.
His name
He's
sounds
a
so familiar.
comedy store guy. He's got he's the one who on Instagram does, like, he pulls up to people in his car and is like, "Excuse me, what's it like being so hot?"
Oh, yeah. I know that guy. Yeah, okay.
So that's Josh Nasser.
I don't know him as a stand-up, but I know him better as the guy on Instagram.
Yeah, he's in the billions of views.
How
And
interesting is that?
he's just so generous, and he's always been such a good person. When I posted the video, I posted it because TikTok does your captions for you.
Okay.
So I posted the video, and he called me and he goes, "Hey, man, take your video off Instagram. It has the TikTok watermark."
Yeah.
I
I've
go,
seen that
I go,
before.
"What does that do?" He goes, "It suppresses your views." Okay. He sends me the link to this app that will take the same video and just remove the watermark. So you can use the same captions, all that, have TikTok do all the work, and then this takes it off. I was like, all right, I'll do that.
Do you know the comedian Derek Jack?
I don't.
He was on my podcast. He's the current episode that's out.
Yeah, no, I saw the episode. Yeah, that's his name, Derek Jack.
I need to kind of connect you two because he actually asked me this question the other day of, like, how does he caption and I don't do it. My producer does mine in Premiere. So I need
to. Yeah, please do.
So he wanted to, because he's new to the whole social media thing too a little bit.
Yeah, so put me in touch with him,
I will.
and I'll show him how to do this. So,
I appreciate that.
Because Josh showed me, so it's a paying forward thing. And so I was like, all right, so what do I do? He's like, you just copy and paste, put this in the app, and then it redoes the whole video without taking the captions out, but removes the watermark. I'm
Right.
like, okay. So I do that. It works. The first 2 times doesn't work. I'm like, let me just do it one more time. I'm falling asleep on my couch. I'm like, let me just do it one more time. Otherwise, I'll just figure it out tomorrow. Do it. But I have to adjust some of the captions because the grammar is incorrect. Just like it's missing a punctuation, it's missing whatever. And so I redo it and I post it on Instagram. And this is January 31st.
Do you put any hashtags or stuff in it?
I put all of them.
Okay.
It was like 20 hashtags.
Yeah.
Which I found out you're not supposed to do. But
Really? Wait, I do that
it's
now.
it's the for stand up for Instagram, it's whatever. It's 3 to 8 hashtags.
Okay.
And you have to have a theme of recurring 3 to 5 are the same hashtags, so that the algorithm recognizes it's you,
Okay, I got it.
and then kind of kicks it. It's a long, and who knows if I'm right. I just heard from other people.
Got it.
So I posted on February 31st. February 2nd,
So January 31st, February 2nd.
February 2nd, I'm going to be in Miami. February 2nd to the 6th, I'm in Miami on this cruise. I know I'm not going to have internet service, whatever. So 31st, kind of put it on Instagram on 31st January, and it was at 4:30 in the afternoon. I posted. At 6 o'clock, I texted Josh, and I was like, "Man, I think you're onto something." He goes, "What's up?" I was like, "Well, I've had this clip up, and it's at 6,000 views. I took it all down, reposted it." He goes, "Where are you at now?" I go, 16,500. He goes, "And how long?" I said, "An hour and a half." He goes, "Oh, baby, you're about to go viral."
Oh, yeah.
And I went, "No, I don't know about that." And I go, "And what's considered viral now?" Because back in my day, 10,000 views was viral.
Right.
And then it went to 100,000. So I'm like, are we at 10 million? Like, what's viral now? And I'm driving to Miami because of a snowstorm. And I'm not missing this cruise because it's all my buddies going to be on this thing, and Brad. And I was like, I'll drive to Miami. So we're driving to Miami. And the phone just ding, 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 to the point where it was annoying. So I turned the ringer off on my phone. And I would just check. I'm like, 280,000 views. 480,000 views. By the time I got on the boat, I was at 1,000,001.
Wow.
When I got off the boat, I was at off the cruise, not off the boat, but off the cruise. I think it was like 1.4, 1.5 million. I was like, okay, this is great. Let me post something else. And I'm like, well, let me wait till I get back to Dallas. And that's when, from Miami to Dallas is when we got to 3 million. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I went from 1,289 is the exact number. 1,289 was how many followers I had on the 31st of January. And I was at 13,000.
Right.
I was like, oh, okay, this is wild. And now so I've added 6,000 since last Tuesday.
Wow.
So now it's roughly about that. And so it's just more and more and more. And I'm finally figuring out that if you can combine the two, if you can combine the social media aspect, the business, and the show, that's where we're at today. And I don't think that's going anywhere. When I said it was cyclical, it was back then. I think now it's a healthy combination of the both. There are some people that only watch online. That's a fact. And they will only watch online. They're not going to leave their house. They're not going to go anywhere. They're not going to go to a club. There's 1% of the world is like that. Everybody else is like, let me see what I'm spending money on.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's what we fail to see as artists, is them going, it's a trailer for a movie. That's why they put movie trailers out. This is our trailer. When you go, here's this joke. Here's what I'm working on now. They go, oh, okay. Well, my tickets are 25 and 35, right? Well, if I'm paying $25, what am I going to see?
Yeah, I want a little taste of it.
Yeah, and they go, oh, okay, perfect. I'll pay $25 or I'll pay $35 or whatever it is.
And the flip side of that is releasing, let's say, an entire special on Netflix. Like the other day, I watched Mateo Lane's.
Oh, yeah, I know
special,
Mateo. Yeah, he's great.
Hair plugs and, what is it called? Hair plugs and something.
Okay.
But, yeah, he's one of my favorite comedians right now.
He's great. He's great.
And the reason he's one of my favorite comedians right now is that he has such a very interesting story.
Yeah.
And it's he's had a varied life and he's done so much and kind of pulls it all together.
Yeah.
So he's awesome to watch. But
And his energy is really good. His
Oh, yeah.
energy is pretty over the top, and it's also very when he does shit on himself, as comics do. It's so fantastic the way he does it.
I mean, the first 20 minutes I think is
Yeah.
all about him getting hair transplant surgery,
Yeah,
and it's so fucking funny.
Yeah.
Like it's killer.
Yeah.
One after another things. But why I was saying that is like, in any other universe, if Mateo doesn't put that on YouTube
Yeah.
and doesn't have the Instagram following
Yeah.
and doesn't do his buddy's podcast where they just kind of keep cross promote each other,
yeah,
I don't see him
yeah.
because he's probably not going to be traveling through Dallas very often.
Oh, he was just here last year, so let's see. I mean, I know he's in Houston.
But the thing is, if you don't know who he is and
Yeah.
you're figuring out what to do on a Friday night,
Yeah,
you may avoid because you don't know what that brand of comedy is.
Yeah.
Who's Mateo? You
Yeah.
know, like,
yeah. But I
But
mean,
now-
when we put this up, when we put this episode on, you give me the little. Yeah, we'll throw it up there, and I hope that, and I'll implore my new follow. It sounds so creepy saying followers. It's just friends, like my new friends and my new base, like just to watch your stuff, because it's just, and I've done 1,000 of these, and I'm not going to bullshit you. I wouldn't ever do that. I've done 1,000 of these, and this is probably the most comfortable in your own space, wherever your artist mind wants to go, kind of podcast. And it's very, it's the environment's very appealing.
thank you. I
Where
appreciate
it's
that.
very comfortable. It's very, you're not pressed for time. There's not a producer over here yelling. There's not. It's very laid back, and I think you come from a place of wanting to understand and wanting to promote and wanting to help, and that's such a beautiful place. And I think a lot of people are like, well, if I put this person on, then I'll get this many followers, or if I put this, I'll get this many views. And I don't think you're coming from that place. I think you're coming from, let me make this a pure thing, and if people catch on to it, then it'll grow organically. And I think you're on to something big, buddy.
I really, really appreciate that. But that's exactly what the point of all of this was. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't want to just, because I've been at the comedy club where a big name person has been there. I've left 10 minutes into that person's set,
Yeah.
and I would never invite that person onto my podcast because I didn't find you funny.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of all this is, dude, you made me laugh. So
Yeah.
let's talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, that was the whole point of it. So,
Yeah. I mean, and then we covered like from the Jesus football joke to ethnic moms and ethnic humor and you raising 3 boys out here in Texas and me finding a footing in LA. And we kind of spanned that gamut of a lifetime that if given another 6 hours, we'd still be going, oh, and then this. Oh, and then this.
And that's kind of the beauty of every episode that I've done. At the end of it, it's always come to be like, I think we just barely scratched the surface
yeah.
of who you are. So, like, there's got to be follow-ups to this, and, you know,
Yeah,
we'll do
and then
other episodes and things like that. It's never been a situation where I've had a conversation and be like, oh, yeah, I don't really want to talk to you ever again.
Yeah.
Because it came from a genuine place. You
Yeah.
made me laugh, dude.
Yeah, yeah, and it's also and for me, it's coming from a genuine place because it's watching somebody that knows the business from LA,
Oh, yeah.
and then is coming here going, okay, I like it. This is cool. I got to do this because people need to hear about these people too. You know what I mean? Like they need to know these names, and so let me put these people up on something. And you can have, and it's so funny. You can have as many followers as you want, and whatever. It's way different when you have somebody that's from where you went to get discovered is not the right word, but to perfect or to kind of build on the craft. And that person's now here where you are, and it goes, oh, no, I know what happens over there. That was great.
Oh, yeah. Like, I mean, the cities I mentioned, Austin, New York, Chicago, Boston, LA, these are the places where it's cutthroat.
Yeah.
You know? And if you're a person that grew up with that influence of comedy,
Yeah.
you, like, I say this all the time, and people don't get it. It's like, I don't laugh when the crowd laughs. I laugh when the comedians laugh.
Yeah.
And just because it's like I'm overly sensitized to it.
Yeah.
Try going to the club 2 or 3 times a week and not be a comedian.
That's
Sooner or later,
yeah.
your barometer of bullshit is like,
Yeah.
you're not funny.
Yeah, you spend when you have access to the store and
Yeah.
the factory and the Haha and Hermosa Beach
And Flappers, which
and
is
Flappers
like
in Burbank.
It's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
sleeper
That's
place.
right. Yeah, that's
if you
right
don't
by
know
you.
about it, but it's one of the Seinfeld worked out of there all the time.
Oh, I mean,
Leno
I
was
did.
out of there all the time.
That's one of the first clubs that ever gave me time.
Flappers is an awesome gem in Burbank.
Yeah, that's one of the first clubs that gave me time. I worked with Cedric the Entertainer when he was working on his Netflix special. So he was doing time, and they had me come up and do some time before he went into his. So he got the audience warmed up, and then he went into his. He would do 45 at the end.
Okay.
And that was the 45 he was working on for his hour.
So he's tightening it up before he shoots the special.
And it was so good. And I got to go on right before he went up. And that was at Flappers. I'm like, I would have never thought. Seinfeld, I know, worked on a couple things from out there. I know Greg Barrett works on stuff out there. Titus.
Yep.
Christopher Titus works on a bunch of his stuff out there. There's, I know Kevin Hart did some stuff out there as well.
It's a different crowd from the Hollywood crowd.
Because Burbank's isolated.
Yes.
So everybody just kind of stays in Burbank. And Glendale's right there.
Yep.
And so you can just zip right over.
And it's like the Ice House in Pasadena.
Yeah.
It was, it's one of those places where, again, it's not Hollywood, West Hollywood, where tons of tourism,
yeah,
tons
but
of
that's
people, but you got to be good to be good at the Ice House.
Brad Williams, I did when it was him and Adam Ray. I did the About Last Night podcast, and I'd been friends with Adam, but I didn't know Brad that well.
Right.
Did that podcast, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to come do the Ice House?" I'm like, "Well, how far is it from my place in Sherman Oaks? Because I had none of the Ice House."
It's really far.
And he's like, "No, from Sherman Oaks with no traffic." It was like 20 minutes.
Yeah,
like,
but when is it never traffic in LA?
oh, so going to the Ice House was 22 minutes. Coming back was a wildly different story.
There you go.
I did once coming back that was an hour and 30 minutes.
So what was your exit off? Were you 101 or 405?
405.
What was your exit?
Ventura.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know exactly where you were.
Yeah.
Right by
No,
the
Sherman Oaks-
101, 405.
Sherman Oaks Mall.
Yeah.
I could walk to it. I used to go to that P.F. Chang's for lunch all the time. And then there's Añejo, which is like the spot in Sherman Oaks for brunch. That was like literally walking distance to my place. But yeah, and that's how I met Brad Williams, and that's how I met this. And so the Ice House is another sleeper gem as well. But Flappers was Flappers and the Haha in the beginning was like this is where we're getting started, because everybody's like Gabriel Iglesias was hanging out at Flappers and doing his workout stuff there, and you're like, cool, man. So what's the liberties that you get here? It's like as long as you bring people, as long as people come to see you, you can have as much time in that main room as you want, as long as there's no second show.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay, this is perfect. So I try to angle for that spot, and then the Haha's like, you can close that every show. So, yeah, man, you came from a place that understands the business to a place that has a great scene, and you're promoting people that I think you're based in LA that's going to watch this show, obviously, needs to see. There's a bunch of comics out here that they need to check out.
That's kind of the hope of all of this is.
Yeah,
like,
to discover new talent.
Yeah, there's so much good talent that's here.
Yeah.
So, showcasing you guys gives me an opportunity to have these awesome conversations, get to know you. But it also has like, hey man, if you ever wanted to know who I was before all the fame and stardom, because I know for a fact a bunch of the people that I've talked to will sell out arenas in the next decade.
Oh, sure.
For sure, they're on their way. Like,
yeah.
You can tell.
Yeah.
But if you want who I was and always will be, here, dude, I talked to Tom when like nobody knew who I was. I was just a Dallas comic.
Yeah.
And you have this record, this archive of
your
truth
told
by you. And no one can screw with that.
Yeah.
It's there forever.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the point of this. And then there's another element to it that I'd rather share off camera with you.
Sure.
But it's a little bit further down the line, but it's the ultimate dream of this whole podcast.
Awesome, man. Well, I look forward to another episode, buddy.
I do too. I really appreciate this. So tell people where they can find you on
so
social
all my
media.
social media is at Comedian Raj, all one word. R-A-J, not R-O-G. That's the joke about going from Raj to Roger.
Yeah. You did that the other night.
Yeah,
Too. It was funny.
and that was my next door neighbor till he passed away, called me Roger, and I was like, and it's Raja, R-A-J-A.
Yeah.
But he had a speech impediment, so he'd say Waja.
So
And
it
his
just sounds like Roger.
parents thought he was saying Roger.
Right.
And so that stuck. And then the first time I did stand up, they're like, please welcome your first comic, Raj Sharma. And it sounded like Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I dropped the A. So anybody that knows me from 26 back, it's Raja. And everybody 26 and up, it's Raj.
The problem is like Raja. It's
Yeah.
hard to say for a native English speaker.
Yeah,
'cause
Raja. Yeah.
They just don't kind of go
They don't hit the
together.
hard J.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Raj just is easy.
Yep. And then you had Raj on What's Happening back, the old sitcom back in the day. So
Exactly.
so it's comedian Raj, all one word. So that's all my social media, and just follow me, and I'll be posting all this stuff, and whatever you send me, I'll hype this up, and this will be a lot of fun, man.